This incredible escape out of Japan, worthy of a movie. You're stuck in a box for several hours, right? Breathing through air holes. What is that like?
I'm not going to confirm or say anything. What I can tell you that it's obviously, you know, you have lots of anxiety when you are in a period where you are transiting out of the country, but you're not still out of reach.
Not your everyday CNBC interview. That is former Nissan CEO turned international fugitive Carlos Ghosn speaking with CNBC 2.5 years ago, shortly after he was smuggled out of Japan in a guitar case. With the help of 2 Americans, the auto tycoon was able to escape fraud charges in Tokyo and return to his childhood home of Lebanon, where he remains in exile today. Joining us now, Wall Street Journal reporters Nick Kostoff and Sean McClain. They are co-authors of a new book titled Boundless: The Rise, Fall, and Escape of Carlos Ghosn. Guys, good morning. Congratulations on the book. I mean, this story, for people who are not familiar with it, we've just got to take a step back, Nick. I'll start with you and just kind of set the table about who Carlos Ghosn is, and then we'll get to why he ended up in an instrument case being smuggled out of the country.
So Carlos Ghosn, first of all, thanks for having us on. Carlos Ghosn is one of the most prominent CEOs in the world. He's actually head of 3 Fortune 500 companies, Nissan, Renault, and Mitsubishi. And he gets arrested, surprise arrest, in the fall of 2018. At the time, he was flying high. You know, he used to opine about global business at Davos. He used to be in the media a lot. And one day he lands in Japan and he's arrested. And we sort of find out about all of these kind of alleged crimes that have been going on for a number of years. Ghosn says, you know, he's the victim of an unfair system. The Japanese say that he's a kind of a greedy dictator and he's kind of committed all these crimes. And roughly a year, I think 13 months after his arrest, Ghosn is facing, you know, 4 charges, up to 15 years in jail. And he basically one day just leaves his house. He's on bail, and in this kind of amazing escape, manages to get to Lebanon in a musical instrument case. And so that's where he's been living now for the past 2.5 years. Lebanon does not extradite its citizens. He's a Lebanese citizen. And so we're now in a position where Japan cannot get to him. And he's still out there living as an outlaw.
Still fugitive, Sean. So how did this high-flying executive end up inside that musical instrument case? What did he do? What were the charges against him in Japan? And why was he's clearly so desperate to get out of that country?
Well, Carlos Ghosn was facing 2 main charges. One was related to alleged plans to defer his compensation for a number of years until after his retirement. And the second arguably bigger charge was an allegation that he took kickbacks from a Omani Nissan and Renault dealership to the tune of several $1 million. And it was after the charges on the Omani-related actions that Carlos Ghosn decided he would leave the country.
So, Sean, the story is just wonderful because it's kind of Shakespearean. Here's this guy who gets incredibly greedy. He's cheating on his wife and he's facing an expensive divorce prospect. He's made a bad margin call and the banks want 20 million. He finds a way to kind of get out of the money. And then he plans this kind of larger than life Hollywood type escape in a guitar box. I mean, I'm hoping that there is a movie coming because I've always been fascinated by Carlos Ghosn and how he got away with this. But get us inside the guy's head a little bit. I mean, what was it that takes him from being successful and, as far as we know, uncorrupt CEO to having that margin call go wrong back in 2008 to suddenly going off the rails and becoming this corrupt, greedy figure who has to end up being arrested and then get out of the country and now is living as a fugitive?
Well, I think one thing that Nick and I realized in our reporting over the years on the Carlos Ghosn case is that it's really hard to get into his head and really understand what happened unless you start at the beginning. So Nick and I investigated and laid out in a massive sweeping narrative Carlos Ghosn's entire life and career up to this point. And once you do that, you really see a man who was extremely talented and deserved everything that he earned along the way. But when he reached the rarefied air of the upper echelons of the corporate world, he found a environment completely devoid of oversight. And in that environment, Carlos Ghosn began to do things in secret and in the shadows that ultimately came to light after a rebellion by several Nissan executives who were trying to avoid a merger between Renault and Nissan, and went digging for dirt on Carlos Ghosn and came up with quite a bit, which we've laid out in our book. Many of the details have not come to light until now.
So, Nick, as you reported in the book, Mr. Ghosn was cooperating at first with Japanese authorities, then realizes he's in some pretty serious trouble. And in the summer of 2019, gets in touch with you can't make this story up, with a former U.S. Special Forces soldier. What happens from there?
Yeah, exactly. And so the way Ghosn tells it is also because he's suddenly on bail once more, and one of the conditions is that he can't talk to his wife. And so at this point, he's facing this long jail sentence. He can't. The bail conditions are tough. He decides to escape, and he gets in touch with Michael Taylor, who is a former Green Beret, has made a career out of pulling off kind of improbable operations. He was involved in, for example, also extracting, there was a New York Times reporter who was held hostage by the Taliban. He was involved in getting him away. And Michael Taylor at this stage has done a stint in jail himself, and he's selling vitamin water. And so vitamin water is kind of fun, but it doesn't necessarily keep someone like Michael Taylor's blood boiling. And so he starts to look into this Carlos Ghosn case and how can I get, one of the most recognizable figures, one of the most famous people out of Japan? Well, how do we do this? And he figures pretty quickly that you can do this either by sea, in some kind of like container ship or something, or you do it by air, either by going through the border or through a private jet. And anyway, what they settle on in the end is to get him inside a musical equipment box, roll him past security and onto a private jet. And actually, the plan is well, in my opinion, genius in its simplicity. They really didn't overthink it. Private jet terminals have pretty lax security on the whole, because generally people who take private jets are not going to blow up their own planes. So you, in fact, have a box where you can tick what level of security you want. And so you can see on the CCTV, which we managed to review, that actually when Michael Taylor, one of his helpers, and the box go past security, one of them goes through, the metal detector goes off, nobody does anything. They roll the box next to the metal detector, not even through it. And it's actually pretty simple to get across the border and then get him on the plane.
Yeah, we're watching that video right now from December 30th of 2019, vehicle rolling right up next to the plane. He is stuffed in a box, put on that plane, and now ferried off to freedom, where he remains in exile. It is an amazing story. We've just scratched the surface. The new book is Boundless: The Rise, Fall, and Escape of Carlos Ghosn. Wall Street Journal reporters Nick Kostoff and Sean McLean, thanks so much for being here. Amazing. Appreciate it. Comment